Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Glow Collective. I don't know about you, but this episode is going to be magnetic, literally. We're going to dive into so many powerful topics that's really going to, at least my intention is, to light a fire within you, to really fuel you into the direction of your dreams. And to assist me in this topic, we have my friend and business partner, Greg Kruger. Greg is an entrepreneur that is focused on positively impacting the lives of people that he encounters on his journey, and he does this in both the physical and emotional and energetic spaces. In the physical space, he is a founding partner and the chief operating officer for Dream Nutrition, an Indiana-based hemp and nutrition company that is focused on innovative plant-based supplements, namely CBD and other cannabinoid-containing products. Now, on the spiritual, emotional, and energetic side of life, Greg is a student of life and of various modalities. He is a licensed practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, has trained in Reiki levels 1 and 2, and has studied and trained in other areas to include meditation, breathwork, and human design. You guys, this is going to be powerful. Greg uses all these modalities with his clients that he privately coaches one-on-one. He has been studying and coaching for over a decade and has a passion for sharing his knowledge with as many people as he can. You can find him on Facebook using Greg Kruger, Kruger 16, on Instagram at Meditation Junkie, that's Junkie. And if you're interested in learning more about cannabinoids you can check out Dream, that's DREEM, nutrition.com. We'll have these linked up in the show notes, but get ready, you guys. This is going to be intense in all the most beautiful ways. So without further ado, let's get ready to unleash that glow. All right, guys, I want to take a quick minute to give a shout out to our sponsor, Prolinium. So Prolinium is the maker of two of my absolute favorite fillers, Revenus Versa and Revenus Lips. Now, these two fillers are incredible because they have the highest concentration of hyaluronic acid, which is a magical little molecule that is naturally produced in your body and helps keep your tissues hydrated and healthy. Now, both of these fillers are loaded with this molecule, and the high concentration means that Revenus produces long-lasting, beautiful results that will always look completely natural while keeping your skin and lips healthy and hydrated. Now, Revenus Versa is one of the newer FDA-approved HA injectables used to treat mild to severe facial wrinkles and folds, such as those smile lines around the mouth. It's one of the best ways to take years off your appearance and help you smile with total confidence. It is hands down my favorite and go-to HA filler. If you've been thinking about improving those smile lines and refreshing your look, then you've got to try Versa. Use promo code LIPS to receive 10% off your first treatment with me, or find a local Revenus provider near you. All right, hey guys, so we're about to dive in and we're excited for today's episode. So I have Greg Kruger here, and he's Chief Operating Officer of Dream Nutrition and a close kick-ass friend. So I'm going to let Greg start off with a little bit of a centering exercise and then get ready.
Okay. So if we're talking just a short centering exercise, right?
Yes.
I try to pay attention always to my emotional state so that when I get into any energies of tension or stress during the day while I'm at work, I can just close my eyes. I tend to have my hands either open or fingers touching, depending, just whatever energy feels good with my hands to be receiving, and then just try to breathe semi-rhythmically. So I would do a 3 count in, a 3 count hold, a 3 count release, and a 3 count hold. So I will lead it. You can breathe, but I'll be talking, and we'll do it together.
So for those of you listening, wherever you're at, I invite you to take a minute to slow down, stop with what you're doing, grab a seat, or just do it standing. If you're driving and you feel inclined, you can stop and pull over. This will only take a few minutes, and this is something you can weave into your day at any moment, anytime.
Anytime.
Yep.
Yep. That's the beauty of it, is that in any moment we have the ability to change our energy.
Exactly.
Right? So regardless of what you're feeling right now, if you're driving, I listen to this stuff sometimes while I'm driving. Just be aware of yourself. Keep your eyes open, right? Okay, so,
Yeah.
But you can still listen to what the thought process is. So,
Yep.
okay, so we'll go ahead and just breathe out. And then we'll breathe in, 2, 3, and hold. 2, 3. Release. 2, 3, and hold. 3. Breathe in and hold. 2, 3. Release and hold. 2, 3. Breathe in and hold. 2, 3. Release and hold. And keep breathing. And as you breathe in through your nose, filling your belly. Not just your lungs, but filling your belly. And release. Breathe in. And hold. Release. And hold. So you can keep breathing to that rhythm, to that pace. And then you can just start to notice where you feel tension in your body. Maybe you can drop your shoulders a little bit. So I get this breathing, and I do the breathing about just 5 to 6 times, maybe 10. And then I just try to bring myself into my present moment, into my body. Notice where I feel tension, and then just ask that to relax a little bit more. Notice that I'm in the present moment and that there's nothing happening around me other than me being in my body. So this allows me to separate from work. This allows me to separate from relationships. This allows me to separate from everything outside of myself. So the whole point is to have this moment with myself, to control my breathing, think about slowing my heart rate, and then thinking about something that I might be grateful for. So today I'm grateful to develop beautiful friendships that allow me to be in spaces like I'm in right now, to express myself, to be vulnerable. I'm grateful to be in a mentality and energy that allows me to seek out more in life, to be more and to grow throughout my lifetime. And it's such a beautiful space. Anybody who's listening can be grateful to themselves for showing up in this present moment, for being present in their body, and for realizing that they do control their life, their feelings, their emotions. And then sometimes I might just shake that shit out. Yeah, do some slapping. Yeah, and there we are.
You taught me the slapping thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he said you kind of slap through your body, and that just helps.
Yeah, so one thing I would do sometimes is I'll just start with my hands, and my hands and my feet. I'll slap, and I slap with some aggression. Hands and my feet, right, so that they're open to release and receive, and then just up one arm, down it up a couple times, same to this arm, same to the legs, abdomen, up the back as far as you can, chest, really up in the armpits and stuff here as well, and then a little bit of my neck, and then I'll just do some tapping on my head, and then jump up and down and shake out my body. And then when I do that, combined with other things I do too, just my body feels...
Well, I'm already energized so. I'm ready. All right. So, all right, Greg. So tell me a little bit about how we met. And
don't remember how we met.
Well,
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, just how we met, and then it was more in the professional space.
Yes. And
tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what you're passionate about, and really what lights you up.
Yeah. So, we met because your brother and his office were clients of Dream Nutrition, and they carried our CBD products. And then he asked me to do an open house. And so you guys were clearly at the open house. I was drawn to your energy, to be honest. And then I came over and talked to you, and you're a dermatologist, and we never had worked on skincare stuff before. For me, in the CBD space, a lot of companies will make products, and other people will put their labels on that product, right? So you have a lot. It's called white label, private label. Nothing wrong with that at all. We help people do that as well. But one of the biggest things to me was that instead of instead of just having everybody sell the same products, I would rather have clients come in that want to do something new, original, and different, because there's so many applications for cannabis and cannabinoids.
Which we will dive into.
And so then I introduced myself to you and I said, hey, you ever thought about doing anything for skin? And if you want to, because I figured you will know what's good on the skin versus me, let's talk about those things.
Yeah, that's true. And
so then that was like, what? It was
a couple of years ago. 2-3 years ago.
But it was like a year later that I think I just reached back out an email and said to see where you were. And you said you were interested. Yeah. And so then we decided to have a meeting at your parents' house outside. It was the most interesting business meeting ever. Initial business meeting, because that's where we became friends. So we sat out under the trees. We did a meditation before we talked business, which I thought was super cool. And we started talking about different things. And then there's the pond. And so, you said, man, I really want to jump into that. And I was like, well, what's keeping you? Let's do it. And I said, let's do it with kind of the intention that we would do it. But also then you just instantly said, all right, let's go.
right now.
Which became and we might have walked around and played on the monkey bars and,
a little bit
and just played. So that's when we became friends. So from business to friends there, and then that enabled us to really comfortably work together and start formulating products. So what else? A little bit about me. My ultimate goal in life is really my own self-development, my own, to see what I can create in my life, how in touch with my body or this experience I can be, see what the human potential is, and really to help other people do that as well. So I personally like to study. I'm kind of a jack of all trades type person, personality, whether, when you look at the design of me versus, how my life has been and how I am in the personal development space, it's really kind of a jack of all trades. So, So
tell me who you were before, like, let's say 3, 4, 5 years ago, and who are you today?
Yeah. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, probably like 3, 4, 5 different humans in that time space. But my personal development journey was about 10 to 12 years ago.
Okay. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would have to say, if I was describing myself 10 years ago, I would say I was a good human being with good intentions and
like
wanted to love. Yeah. And I was aware, that's scratch that. I was completely unaware.
Right, being honest with ourselves.
I was aware that I wanted to be more. I was aware that there was more for me in life.
Like what?
I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know. And so then let's see, how did it all start? I was actually going through my second divorce, and then forums were kind of bigger. It wasn't like Google and Facebook and that kind of stuff. It wasn't quite this. That wasn't the platforms, I don't think, that they are now, or I wasn't involved then. And I remember searching for self-help forums, and I found this forum that covered everything from UFOs to meditation to religions to sexuality, all those different types of things. And I found this thread that a guy was talking about having a hard time and just asking people for, guidance on like what book. What's a top book that they would recommend? And The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, however you pronounce his last name, The Power of Now was the very first one, and it stood out to me. And it was the first time that I experienced something where it stood out to the point where I'm like, that's important for me. And I went immediately and bought that book. And it was because of that moment and me listening and responding to my energy that started to become a practice. When something would come into my awareness multiple times, when you have some topic that you hear from a friend about, and then I won't say you see it on your phone because your phone's listening, but you hear it from your friend, then you hear it from another friend, then you see it somewhere else.
It's just brought into your awareness multiple times before you take it out.
Pay attention to those times. Like pay attention to those, grab those things.
So you mean like, okay, like I'm talking with a friend and they say something about a car or something, and then later on I see a car or a car comes up. Am I supposed to now go buy a car?
I'm talking more in the personal development thing.
Gotcha.
Like I think we have we get in this space where where we're always in the space of the next lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does that lesson get delivered? Is it just because we choose to seek it out, or is it constantly coming to us? I think we always get what we put out.
Agree.
Right. So if I'm in a space where I'm open to receive and I'm open to growth and I'm open to learning new things, right? Because if we're not picking up new things, then we're staying the same.
Yeah. Stagnation
right?
is not.
I
agree.
New experiences, new emotions, new neural connections, all that stuff happens. So when we're in that space where we want to hear and see things, and sometimes we'll see it because suddenly a random animal crosses our path. Maybe you can look up what the Indian or the spiritual meaning is of that animal. Maybe we'll see a repetition of series of numbers over and over again. You can look that up and see what that message is.
So these are all just ways to take cues from the environment that you're
just pay attention
in your
listen.
awareness.
Yeah.
And then you said something where you said then you can learn to respond to it by first knowing what's coming in and seeing it.
So yeah, I'm not sure so just pay attention and then I just when I say no, I respond. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure,
all right. All right, we can rewind so far. But so share a little bit about how you got into Dream and what Dream Nutrition is, because I was really excited when I met you at my brother's open house and just about all the awesome things with the products and so share.
So Dream Nutrition, man, Dream Nutrition for me came as a result of using cannabis as medicine for years. I was introduced to it in college, of course, and that was that was not necessarily the same way that I use it today. But I knew, because I have so much going on in my head, that sometimes cannabis has allowed me to slow down, be more present, and come back to my body as opposed to just being in my thoughts. And I find that my thoughts are focused. So there's always been that drive towards cannabis. But then I spent 18 years in the pharmaceutical industry in sales and many prior lifetimes ago, where I do believe in the importance of pharmaceutical intervention to a degree, but not necessarily reliance when we're talking like antidepressants and different things. I do think those tools, I would never put those tools down. I've used them before for short periods of time because I knew I needed something. But the dependence of them is a problem, I think, in the United States. Anyways, so therefore, the trajectory, I always say the evolution of Greg Kruger was beyond the industry that I was in. And I was looking and really passionate to just find something different. Or I would call it out. I wasn't looking. And then one day, synchronistically, I opened up Facebook and there's my buddy, my now partner and CEO, Austin Rodas. And it's actually a friend of mine, Shane, who is his older brother by 14 years. And Shane was bragging on his little brother. And I'd known Shane at that time for 20 years. Never met Austin because they had different fathers and they were 14 years apart.
Gotcha.
So Shane was bragging on his brother starting this CBD company called CB Dream, him and one other guy that were in Hawaii. And then they moved back stateside and they'd started it like 6-7 months prior. And I asked Shane, put me in contact with your brother. I need an exit from pharmaceuticals. Yeah. And cannabis.
And this was what year?
And this is hemp. It's CBD. It's still cannabis. It still comes from cannabis sativa. It's still that industry. This was 2000. I joined. So then I talked to Austin, and I officially became part of the company in January of 2016-ish.
Okay, gotcha.
January-ish of 2016, for sure 2016. So they started in March of 2015. So they moved it back to Indiana, and then we started talking, and ultimately, to make a really long story short, I stayed the next 2.5 years in pharmaceuticals, which allowed me to have access to a little bit of money that I could help to invest and put into the company and help build the company with Austin. And ultimately, it just became Austin and I who were building the company. The other partner wasn't an energetic match. It's difficult energies. So we moved on past that. We went from CB Dream to Dream Nutrition.
Gotcha.
And it became that 2016, I believe, late 2016, we started reforming the company.
Yeah, and I think one thing that stood out to me just with, I think cannabinoids are amazing. They work amazing for your immune system, your mind, everything like that, even in the skin. But one thing that stood out about your Dreams CBD was that they had terpenes. So can you share a little bit about what terpenes are and what's the benefit of having that in like a product?
Yeah, for sure. So in cannabis, well, first of all, and this is the problem I think with pharmaceuticals at times, we as humans, we find a component. You got the cannabis plant. It's got up to what we've determined to be 100 to 120, maybe 140 different identified cannabinoids.
Yeah.
So CBD and THC are just movie stars. There's over 100 more of these components.
Yeah, which is mind-blowing.
And then
don't
there's
think about
hundreds
that.
of variants of terpenes that can exist as well. There's
in plants.
Man, I'm forgetting the number, but there's something like 20 to 40,000 different terpenes that exist in nature. Terpenes give plants their smell. And or
They're
the
volatile.
smell, actually, the smell that you pick up from a plant are the terpenes volatilizing, right? And so terpenes offer different immune support to the plants. So when you take cannabis and you start to process it and extract from it, terpenes are the most volatile in there, so they go.
Okay.
But they have therapeutic effects. So then when we started getting into CBD, and that was the only main cannabinoid that people were looking at back then, we realized that as humans, we have, hundreds of components to a plant. We say, I want that one. Yeah. And then we take it and we boost it through the roof. Yeah. And we take away all the other things that work with it to make it good. Right. So.
And you need that synergistic effect. It's like the entourage effect.
Yeah. Now you you don't need it. You can get benefit from just CBD without that entourage effect. But with more components, it works better. So. We knew that, but we also knew in the time, imagine now people are learning about CBD, but in 2016, nobody understood. And then you say it comes from cannabis, and then you get people freaking out because they have a stigma around THC. Yeah. Right. So we knew that we wanted zero THC. Being we're military. All the three of us that formed Dream Nutrition would be myself, partner Austin, who's our CEO, and Joel. Three of us who started Dream Nutrition were all veterans as well. We wanted to be able to serve law enforcement, veteran community, and we knew that zero THC was important. Yeah. But we didn't want to have just CBD. Right. So then because the terpenes that are in cannabis are not independent to cannabis, and they are in other plants and flowers and vegetables and things, we can get botanical extracts that aren't from cannabis and then add those back in. So now we're taking some of the prominent anti-inflammatory terpenes that have anti-inflammatory effects in the body. Gotcha. And we worked with a medical doctor actually to come up with a good formulation of six that were driven towards anti-inflammatory responses. Okay. So, which is pretty cool. So we add those back in and called it Terpene Advantage. Yeah. No, I love it. I have them sitting over here. So yes. Yeah, and I want to talk about product design and stuff when we dive into AV. Yeah. So okay, awesome. Okay, I love that. So then 2.5 years later I was able to quit pharmaceuticals and go full time because it was just time that we needed to start growing. Yeah. So I would, I'm big in mindset and just productivity hacks. Yeah. So with, working, with the other job, starting this, right, and trying to live a life, what are like a few things that you do to make the most of your day, stay focused just with, life and be a doer? Yeah, I would have to say that I was a little bit different mindset then because at the time I was, my two boys were both teenagers. I was full-time pharmaceuticals. I was building this company, and I was an owner of a salon and managing the business side of that too. Oh, wow. So okay, I didn't know that. I had a lot going on in my life, but always knew that but also my time with my boys was still paramount and key. So I managed to get all of that stuff in it. Maybe I work late hours. We used to work till when we started reformed and made Dream Nutrition and building it, we would work till midnight and 2. Sometimes we would be doing all kinds of stuff. That's what you have to do sometimes. I don't know what occupied us to those hours anymore, but we were also working on East Coast and West Coast. So we would be working with California people as well. So in that, when I talk about even my journey, after I got the Power of Now, eventually then I started learning about meditation and I got with a coach and started bringing in daily success habits into my life. Those kind of things really help me. And I'll get to what those are. But the difference of me then and the difference of me now was realizing, I told Austin one time, he's like, man, he always used to say we're C-level, executive level, C-level, CEO, COO. And when he would say C-level, baby, that means we're working late. You know, we got to put in the time. We're grinding. And one day he said to me, he's like, man, we got to grind. We got to grind. We got to grind and make this successful. And I said, hey, man, listen, because I'm 14 years older than him.
Yeah.
And look where I'm coming from, balancing all these different jobs. I'm like, dude, I've grinded. I've ground. I'm good. I'm good. And my goal is to work less.
Yeah.
So
how do you do that?
If you have the belief and you speak out loud that we have to grind to be successful, then your belief system creates your reality, and you will always have to grind to be successful. Yes. So it's like, we need to change that, or there's going to be issues with me because that's not where I'm going. You know, so now my work-life balance is as good as it's ever been. And my thought process is serve myself, then serve the world.
Exactly.
So
that's the only way we can do it. If our cup is full, we can go out there, be that light, you know, be positive for others and help them grow. But we can't do it from a space of lack or emptiness. Right.
So whatever you're feeling inside is what you're giving the world. If you wake up in the morning and you're behind and you're jumping out of bed and you're like, oh shit, and rushing to get to work and like, damn it, then you get in the car and you're super stressed. You get to work, you're like and your energies. Well, you're welcome, world. You know, like here's to the world is saying, oh, we got the shit version of Greg today. He's clearly tense. Right. So, I want to be the change that you want to see. So my mornings, I like to have a 2-hour window at least for myself.
Likewise. It's like 2 to 3. You just have, right. So share a little bit about your morning. Like, what are the first 3 things you do when you wake up?
Okay. We'll skip bathroom. That's first, but that's not the most important, but that's just so I can be in a good space, use the restroom, and I come, and then I just set up. I have this little stool, depending on where I am, if I'm at the office or I'm at home. So I'll have a setup to where I put on my headphones, I put on a mindful mask so that I can have my eyes open and be pitch black or closed, and I have zero visual distractions. And I put on a breathing exercise, and I'll throw shout outs to Soma Breath. The guy, I don't remember the guy's last name, but his first name is Niraj, and to Wim Hof. Year and a half, 2 years ago, I started doing Wim Hof's breathing techniques. And that's WIMHOF.
So he's known as the Iceman for those of you that don't know him.
His belief is breathing, cold, and consistency. Right? Yeah. So he takes control of his body through breathing, and then he can subject himself to different cold things, which are very therapeutic for the nervous system.
Immune boosting and
and so I did his app on my phone, and every morning I would do it for over a year. I think I hit in 365 days. I think I was about probably 320s.
It's really
for how
good.
Many days I did it.
I mean, I swear everything's consistency. And I was never so disciplined, but for me to like be able to do these things, like I have to have like some structure. The structure. So the thing with me was always, all right, I'm waking up groggy and it doesn't matter. I try to have, first of all, backtrack before we even start the morning is sleep hygiene. Yeah. Like my optimal is 10:30 to 6. So if I can have all my electronics shut off, airplane mode, my phone, do not disturb, nothing is going to disturb my sleep. I love a cold room where I can use a weighted blanket, because I just work really good with weighted blankets, but sleep hygiene is everything. But even if I have nights though where I go to bed late and I wake up and I'm groggy, I know that if I can get my ass up, sitting up and take at least 3 breaths, just put on my headphones, because now I went to the Soma breath, which I've shared with you. To
activate the body. And it's 23 minutes. So the first thing I do is focus breathing and bring all my energy and attention, and I love my body with that breath. And then I'm activated. Then I can go into a meditation for anywhere from 20 to 60 minutes after that without falling asleep. Obviously, if you get out of bed and try to meditate, you're going to
right
back to sleep. But after you do that breathing, no, forget about it, right? So, huge into Joe Dispenza's work. I've attended his week-long advanced retreat before. So a lot of times I'll do different meditations that I've purchased from him.
So Dr. Joe, I mean, I think he has really powerful work, and just something I've stumbled into just through you over the last few months. And I would say it's definitely like transformative and really activates like your mind in a different way. His goal is cuts through the nonsense.
His goal is to help you get connected to the field, the energy field that exists all around us. And so his meditations are really focused on you coming out of your body, detaching from your body, because you're not your body.
Right.
Detaching from your identity, which is just body and mind created thing.
Especially like with what I do in skincare, it's all like external.
Yeah.
And so, go to a place where I can just be like, okay, I'm not Dr.V anymore. I'm not
You're the energy. You're the energy that is in this body and riding along with it. So detach from the identity of this 3-dimensional space and connect into the energy. And so, love his work. But to make a short story really long, here we go. Okay, I get up, I do breathing, I do my meditation, I don't know that I'd call it a yoga practice, but maybe I should. That'd be a
yoga's just mindful movement.
Then I have stretching and a yoga practice, which I'm developing more personally. Then I have a red light infrared therapy that I do for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Then I get some coffee, and my goal is always to not touch my phone, only touch my phone. I keep my phone on airplane. I take it off airplane mode so I can get onto YouTube and get these, and then I can get into my storage for my Dr. Joe meditations, but I keep it on do not disturb.
Okay.
And I do my best. Sometimes I slip. I'm human, but I do my best to not look at any text messages, any kind of messaging whatsoever. I want my space to be mine and uninterrupted. So then I go and make my coffee, and then I journal. Mm-hmm. And
how long do you journal for?
Probably 10 minutes.
Okay,
that's really so I don't put a time on it. I put a content on it. Okay, I journal until it's done flowing. So sometimes it's only a few minutes. Mm-hmm. Dr. Jim Lauer, Loehr. I heard a killer podcast from this guy. I've done journaling for over a decade. Mm-hmm. Not every single day, but periods of my life where it would be every day. Mm-hmm. Because it's a really good way to express and see the energy that's coming out of you. Yeah. And let your worst of worst energies flow out and cuss and,
you're not repressing anything. You're just
see it. You're like, oh, look at that shit. That's inside of me. Right. Wow. Let's get that out. But I'm big into Tim Ferriss' podcast, and Dr. Jim Lauer was on there, and this guy is just I really resonated with him because, like me, he practices a lot of things and then just takes the best practices and tells them to people, what they do. Yeah. Because I've also done Reiki level 1 and 2 training, and I didn't do it so I could do it for other people. I did it so I could experience it and understand what it is so I could speak to it. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is true. So he has this book, and now I'm going to blank on the name. It's about leadership, building character and leadership. And it's a 2-part, it's a book and it's a journaling companion, because his big mindset is when journaling is everything. And so it's 150 days of journaling. Wow. So I'm about 73 days into my journaling right now, and asks very pointed questions about your strengths and your moral character and your, and your behaviors and your, lists all these different characteristics and what's your strengths and what's your weakness.
So what was today's question?
Today's question was to look through days 62 to 72. Mm-hmm.
So I'm on 73.
62 to 72, and to write down what your key takeaways are based on those things. And the 62 to 72 was really about moral strengths. Like if you're one of the days was if you're in your worst moment, stress, what are the characteristics that fall apart first?
Okay.
And you have to pull out.
What were they?
So you journal. There's like 12 of them. You number. For me, it was patience and generosity.
All right, you guys. And now for a little bit more from our sponsor, Prolinium. I'm even more excited with the launch of their newest filler, Revenus Lips. Did you know that lip rejuvenation is one of the most popular and requested minimally invasive procedure right now? You guys, as we age, our lips tend to look deflated and dry. For all of my glow getters curious about lip rejuvenation, we can create a subtle and naturally beautiful pout that will never look puffy or overdone. It's what I want to get in my own lips. And unlike other fillers, Revenus Lips is scientifically formulated to reduce swelling and produce long-lasting results. If you're curious to learn more, check out our Instagram page at DRVSKIN to see some of my amazing before and afters. Or you can find the local Revenus provider near you using the link in the show notes. And use promo code LIPS to receive 10% off your first treatment with me. I think for me, it's like there's different things we're all working through, right? And so, we want to rush. So patience, slowing down. operating from abundance, not scarcity.
Yeah. For me, it's patience with other people. Like when things aren't going my way, I'm like, fuck, man, come on. Like, this is so simple. Why can't it just be right? And then I realize, it is right. I'm wrong. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So where my patience falls apart fastest is generally with other people or with situations. And something happens and I let myself get irritated. But I'll say, if, put it in an analogy of children, if, one day your kid spills the milk or breaks a glass or something and it's or your nephew or whatever, no big deal.
Yeah.
Another day you're like lose your shit over it.
Yeah.
The situation is exactly the same. There is a liquid that was dumped. Wow. Okay. The difference is you. Like what energy are you in?
Oh, right? I swear by it. I mean, that's why like these the practices I tell like the girls, I was like, energy state coming in matters because I want to present myself in this just a full way where I can receive any energy coming in and it's not going to knock me off center, right? To be like that.
Because you're already set.
Yeah. So I take time to set as long as I need, but now I have it down pretty straight. Or I know how to reset, right? Yeah. Like 5 minutes, whatever. Okay, I'm back. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that I used to say all the time, everything happens for a reason, which I do believe there is something that can be gathered from everything that happens. But instead of everything happening for a reason, what about everything happens from a reason? Like that's my new thought process. Everything's from a reason. Everything happens from my energy. So when my response is always going to be from where I've allowed myself to, where I've purposefully chosen to be. And if we're not purposefully choosing our energies, they're being chosen for us. And what those is our defaults.
Yeah.
Our bodies and brains are computer programs.
Yeah.
We're like, most people are like 95% of their day is robotic. They step into the shower the same way. They wash themselves the same way. They step out with the same foot first. Every time they brush their teeth with the same hand. They stack the dishwasher so much programmed that when somebody else loads it, they have to fucking reshuffle it, right? So everything has to be I'm going to arrange the fridge the same way, the cupboards, and they go to work, they drive the same way, they have the same experiences with every human that they see at work every day, and they come home and then they have the same evening practices, and they don't realize that very little of their day is not robotic. It's most of their day is robotic.
I swear, So you said you also do coaching.
Oh yeah. So let me finish this thought. So then the point there is, if we're not choosing our emotional state when we walk out the door, if we're not choosing our energetic space, if we're not pausing to say, okay, I'm stressed out, let's adjust this, then our default will be what our body has done most. So if we've been impatient, patterns. I used to be super impatient. That's why patience is something that I put in my mantras, like I am patient. So when I'm impatient, I hear the words "I am patient," so then I have to put myself into that space.
And what does patience feel like? And,
So if we're not purposefully choosing our energy, it's being chosen for us by our default. And so the goal for me is to get my defaults to be peaceful, calm, energetic, happy, and laughter.
Work. Yeah, that's the real work.
Yeah, because I started in my 30s, so I got 30 years of fucked up shit. Not all, but not where I was. My programming wasn't the best. My programming was exactly like my father's programming. Yeah. The programming that I wanted to get away from. Not all of it, but some programs that I wanted to get away from. And that's where I found myself in those spaces.
And so like part of that with patterns and, goes back to, I think I had heard the first terms of NLP from you, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
And what is the basis of that?
Yeah. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, correct. Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder started NLP some 50 years ago. And I had the pleasure of doing about 15 days of training in Dr. Bandler's programs. So to me, how I would describe that is understanding the way our neurology works, understanding how our body and brain create programs, understanding the impact of linguistics in that. And then you can start to see how you can do purposeful behaviors and use purposeful language to program this meat suit that we're running around in, right?
Meat suit.
So for me, the reason I got it, what was so powerful about that is because I wanted to coach people. I wanted to powerfully impact people's lives. And then I thought the biggest barrier is religion. Because I talk about my dad and how attached he is to Christianity or to being a Lutheran. And to each their own, you know,
right.
as long as you're being what you're what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there's a coaching hiccup. It's like, how do you talk to a Buddhist or to an atheist or to a Christian and be a coach for all three of those people? Because if I come out as a Christian coach, then I lose all the other people. Or if I come out as this label or that label. And neurolinguistic programming gave me the opportunity to learn about how the physiology of our bodies work. And so if I'm talking to a Christian, maybe I say the body that God gave you works like this. And if I'm talking to an atheist, I'm like the robot that you're in, you know, or, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. This is how your brain works. We haven't used it to the potential.
Yeah. You have to find the words that resonate, and that's based off of what speaks to us. So
NLP to me can any human being can really get benefit from understanding it. And just like a little tidbit, one of my favorite things to share is with linguistics is the brain doesn't understand a negative command. Okay.
Say that again.
The brain does not understand a negative command. So if I say to you, don't think of a blue elephant, I don't care. You might not be a visual person. You say, no, Greg, I didn't think of blue elephant. You bullshit. You did.
Yeah.
You did. And here's why you had to.
Yeah.
Is because our brain takes in millions of bits of information per second, right? And you're taking in this vibration. As soon as I speak the words, think of a blue elephant, just because I put don't in front of it doesn't mean you say I'm not going to. No. As soon as those vibrations go through your ear holes, then your brain translates what those words mean. What does think of a blue elephant mean?
Yeah.
And so your brain creates the picture of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
So now back to this story about your child spilling milk.
Yeah.
I wake up, I'm like, hey man, don't spill that milk. And then moments later, the kid spills the milk, and then I'm in a shitty mood, and I'm like, damn it, I just told you, don't spill that milk.
Yeah.
What I did was I gave them the words that allowed their brain to think of what it looks like to spill the milk. What does spilling milk even mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is right there. So if I looked at that child and I said, hey, please be careful with that milk, then their brain is creating a picture of what being careful looks like. So there's two lessons here. One, the words that we speak have powerful resonance because our brain is going to create what that reality means.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to create a picture. Two, always ask for what you want. Because if
say the number 1 and 2 again.
Your brain's going to the brain's always going to decipher what the words you speak mean.
Always.
So they're going to create the pictures.
Okay.
Right. And so then knowing that, then always ask for what you want.
Gotcha.
Because if you're communicating and interacting with a human, ask for what you want, and you're going to be in that mindset. Even if you're, let's say you're in high school or you're in college and you're taking a test, it what feels more empowering to think to yourself, don't fail this test, or to think to yourself, fucking pass this test, pass this test, right? Yeah. So always, whatever you say is going to put you in the mindset. So when you use negative commands, you can also, there's a lot of power in NLP because we program each other all day.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So if somebody walks into, or somebody's leaving my house and they say, hey, Kruger, don't forget your keys. The very first thing I do is look at them, say out loud, I will remember my keys.
I do something similar. Yeah, I have to say it.
I say it because
this is going right here.
That's the picture in my brain. Because how many times has somebody said, hey, don't forget that? And you're like, shit, I forgot it. How did I forget it? They told me they didn't tell you to remember it. They told you to forget it.
Yeah.
So that's a fun thing with NLP. Yeah. Language is so powerful. And then you start to realize when you learn it, you start to see people's language patterns, their can'ts and their don'ts and their what they're focused on that doesn't feel good versus focusing on what does feel good. And all of that is hidden within their language. And so they can't control it. They're going to speak the way their programming is.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you can just see how about we adjust this?
Yeah. And I think I just think that's so powerful because I do that within myself and shifted the words that I think, first what I say, but it starts in their thinking, and you don't realize half the thing that's going on in your brain. And once you shift those, it just translates in the world around you.
So was there language patterns that you found were disempowering when you say I switched the language? Is there any that were noticeable to you that you came out and were like, oh, this is now what I say?
Yeah, I'm less often to use words as I don't do that, I cannot do that, I shouldn't do that. I rephrase it with other words that aren't as strong. So instead of saying I don't say this word anymore, I say I often don't say that word anymore.
Okay.
because it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. So little things like that. And
are there any, what I'm asking you, is there any specific words that you, for me, struggle? Like the word struggle, I often,
you're the one that told me. You're the one. So tell me that one more time. Why? Yeah.
So, and this here, so into language then.
And I love language.
Even though we're speaking English, you and I speak different languages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. So remind me to get to the different language part. But every word that I know has an energetic meaning. And every word that you know has an energetic meaning. And it's not based on the definition of the word, it's based on our experience.
Yeah.
So leading into then struggle. Struggle to me
even just saying it.
Struggle to me feels powerless, feels weak. It feels like there's something outside of myself that is dictating some shitty feeling inside of myself, and I'm struggling with this, and if this goes away, I'm better, right? A struggle. It's like something else. I don't have really any power in the situation. Yeah. But when I face a life situation, maybe this is the prior service Marine Corps in me, whatever, it's just my mentality that I have is when I face a life situation, I fucking attack it. I go after it. I own it. Right. And so that's empowering. So if I was struggling, instead of struggling, if you say, Kruger, what's up? How you doing? I would say, I'm dealing with some life situations, because when I call it life situations, I'm empowered to just crush that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
If I said, man, I'm struggling, then like you said, I'm already down here.
Yeah.
So
the energy associated. Yeah.
And realize that a struggle is only a struggle when you use the word struggle.
So no struggles are all life situations.
That's the goal. Yeah, I'm dealing with life situations. And I know when I put that in there, I know consciously that I've made that replacement. Yeah. And so therefore I know consciously that I'm speaking empowering words to myself, that I'm going to own this. Yeah. Yeah, because it's, like I said, it's a struggle when you use the word struggle. If you don't use the word struggle, it isn't a fucking struggle.
That makes
sense.
It's
whatever else you call it.
Yeah, and so share with our listeners, for those of us that maybe aren't as aware or have practices, to know what we actually speak, because I'm big, into doing that. What would you say, are 2 things that they could do to start cultivating that awareness?
Yeah, so listen to yourself. Listen to your words and journal, and then you see the language that comes. Yeah. Journaling shows you the language visually that's coming through you. Listening to yourself express the language, but you also jump past so I took over that question that I asked you. Oh, yeah. So struggle, right? So is there any, you say, I'm going to say that less, or I'm going to say this more. What words are those for you?
I rarely use the words don't and can't. Yeah. I just don't, because, because usually I'll be like, no, I don't do that. Yeah. Well, why don't I do that? Instead it's, I choose not to do it. Yeah. And so now there's that choice, right? Okay, I'm consciously allowing it to happen or not, versus or not being able to. Part of it too is comes from not having the ability to do something. So we're like, oh, go do this thing. Oh, I can't. I don't know how to. Yeah. And so those are disempowering words to me. Like if I can't do, because I want to be able to have the ability to do these things. Yeah. So and they're self-limiting. Yeah. So that's where I flip in the words like yet. I don't know how to do that yet, because then it tells my brain, when I use the word yet means that it's not yet happened. It's something, it's a possibility for the future. Exactly. I don't know how to play the piano yet. Yeah. Meaning if I choose to devote my energy and time into playing the piano, I can, and that's an opportunity if I choose to in the future. Just as of now, I have not developed that skill set. That's very true. So that's very interesting, because there's 2 sides, because I think of that sentence, and as I'm saying it, instead of don't comes out, I'll be like, I'm unable to play at this time. But instead, if it already comes out, I'll just add yet. Just add yet. And then, and so that's a future tense trick to your brain, because the brain is this computer in a dark room. Yeah. It's just translating data. It's translating vibration. So give it the different data. Yeah. Tell it not yet. Or when if you're experiencing energies of depression, speak of it in the past tense, right? Because when you speak of it in the past tense, you're telling the computer that is sending all the signals for chemicals to be released in your body, for your body to feel great, or your body to feel like shit. You're telling that computer that it's past, which gives it
opportunity to stop doing that shit to your body.
You're no longer attaching it to your current
state.
So
I've recently dealt with some depressed thoughts, but I'm working on it daily and it's getting better. And so even if I'm feeling massively depressed in that moment, by saying those words, it's not fake it till you make it, but it almost is.
You're taking action. You're giving
You're commanding your computer to make my body feel better.
Honestly, I feel like we're all we don't know our potential because we are allowing our not yet.
Yeah.
Because our patterns that are just going on, right? And how we carry out our day. And so part of it is just cultivating that awareness through whatever works for you, right?
Yeah, and so there's your word choices. So this is our different and understanding different languages. So if I say, I think I've introduced you to this before. If I say, what's the opposite of depressed for you? What is the opposite of depressed? What's a word?
Happy.
Happy. I mean, was that a question mark or was that a statement?
Happy.
Happy. Opposite of depressed.
I'd say stable.
And he's pointing to Diana. She is my podcast assistant.
So we have happy, we have stable.
That's interesting.
And we have peaceful. So for me, if I'm experiencing, I have experienced severe depression or depressed energy before. And when I come out of that, I'm peaceful. That's mine. Okay. So, and I've heard self-reliant, I've heard energetic, I've heard happy, I've heard joyful, what our answers are. And so you're happy, right? Yours is happy. And so then, is that right? Because I just said those words. Now I'm missing what that was. Was that your answer? Happy.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then you call me one day and you're like, hey, Kruger, like I've just been depressed. Can you just give me some uplifting words? Right. And so based on the language I speak, I know that any way out of something is going to be its opposite. So the opposite of depressed, that's my fucking target. That's where I'm going for, right?
With all your intensity.
Because otherwise I'm not addressing, that's the life situation is depressed energies. Boom, I'm going for peaceful. Okay, so then I ask myself, how can I bring myself to peaceful? So now you're asking me for words and I'm speaking in my language and I'm giving you all these surely brilliant words that I would give. And I'm talking about being peaceful. And at the end of that conversation, you might say, thanks, Kruger. I really, I appreciate that. Those words resonate with me. But we've done nothing for your depression if I haven't talked about being happy.
Yeah.
If I haven't related to your opposite. So we are talking different languages all the time. Most people don't realize it yet with other people that they're talking different languages. So then you can really start to understand that how another person speaks, they're only using words that have been brought to them and energies that have been brought to them and the experience that they've had. So maybe you can be a little more patient or let them off the hook and, because they might say words that really don't work with you. Certain swear words do not work, especially certain swear words with women are very potently aggressive and violent, right? So, but that's a kind of an exaggeration, but you start to understand it. The words that somebody else says and their intention may be not a bad intention, but you interpret it as bad intention because of the words that they chose and how they resonate with you. So therefore we both speak English, but we speak different languages. And the only way we can really communicate is if we take the opportunity to learn the language of the other person.
That's very true. So I think I didn't realize that you got into it from religion, which is interesting, or like trying to understand how to communicate with people because of different religions.
That's why it resonated with me, because I grew up very Christian in a very Christian household, but I just never held on to the belief that because I was lucky to be this white guy brought up in an American Christian, but I was saved and the rest of the world was screwed. That there had to be more, that we had to just have different stories that all lead us to the same path. So I started looking into Buddhism and stuff. And instead of looking at what was different between the religions, I looked at what was the same. God being omnipresent and Buddhists saying, look under a rock and I am there. Or Bible says, look under a rock, I'm there everywhere. And then Buddhism saying everything's connected. It's all the same, right? Or be still and know that I am God is my favorite Bible passage. Yet, if I just be still and meditate, be still and know that I am God.
Yeah. I mean, because I was brought up, my dad's Hindu and my mom's Jehovah's Witness. So there's,
I don't know if I knew that. That's quite a difference.
Yeah, she became Jehovah's Witness afterwards. That's what they got married.
Oh, really?
She was Christian. She was brought up, I think, in Catholicism, but I mean,
having married a Hindu man, she went to Jehovah's Witness.
It's interesting. So that whole dynamic growing up was just very spicy because we're walking on firecrackers of how to say certain terminology, because there's polarities from my mom's side of who God is and what you call it or what you do or don't do, and then with something so it's just a different approach with Hinduism. So I think it did allow me to have more awareness with just, brought up a lot of questions on just religions and spirituality, connection. And honestly, to connect what you said, it's just finding words that resonate. So when I'm talking to my mom, I use very specific words because I know that that's the way to get through.
That's her language.
Yes, that's her language. And then with other, right, like my dad or someone else, I'll use this terminology.
Yeah.
But I can only do that from understanding her language, but also knowing like my language and how I communicate. Yeah.
Like knowing with polarity responders, you always let them make the decision. So you ask questions that lead them to your answer. But,
and then I'm like going into my word bank here.
But I had this, crazy because I had crazy synchronistic. I had the similar experience in that my dad was Lutheran. My mom is Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So both Christian, yet both very different, Catholicism and Lutheran. So my dad made a promise to God that he would raise his children Lutheran.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, me and myself and my two brothers were raised Lutheran. So that means the four men in the house all went to the Lutheran church, and my mom went by herself to the Catholic church, and my mom's family was Catholic. Now, there were times throughout the year where maybe she would come to church with us, or maybe we would go to church with her once or twice a year, a couple times. But for me, that was the biggest question that came from that is, how does something that is so important to your entire being, that's so important to life, that you base the way you live on, how is that the creator of tension and violence is a word that you can use. It's a spectrum, but it's a separation.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That's one of the biggest issues I think in this society is the creation of it's creation of labels and the separation that occurs. So then I thought to myself again, what, am I saved and my mom's not saved? What if my mom's saved and I'm not saved? Where is that? And that created all those questions as well.
Yeah.
And the belief then that everybody has different stories, everybody has a different language, but the purpose of it is all the same.
Yeah. Exactly. I love it.
Yeah. So, so there we are. So, so full circle, my day, I do breathing, I do meditation, I do stretching, I do red light therapy. If I'm at home, I don't travel with that. I do my journaling. Sometimes I'll play some instruments. Like I've gotten into drums. I got a cajon, I've got a djembe, I've got a handpan, and I'll just play some stuff. But then I also allow myself my social media. So with my cup of coffee, and after all of that's done, I let myself look at social media, do those things. And a lot of times that's where some of my coming out of those moments is where some of my expressions that I put online come from, right? Because I'm in a connected space.
Oh, absolutely.
And then those practices are not only allowed to be, they're not only allowed to be in the morning, but they're allowed to be during the day.
And I think that's one thing. I think part of it within like starting practices is that they say you have to have this routine at this time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, it's fine what works for you. Like, once you learn like what makes you operate at a, higher frequency or a stronger state, do that. And maybe it's not at 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it's, at 11 or whatever it is. But then you have to say life design, shape your life to mold into that. So for me, like I start clinic a little later, and that's intentional because the morning hours are just very precious and powerful for creating and dreams and being. You guys, sponsorships make this podcast possible, so please take a listen to one of my favorite sponsors. I want all of you Glow Getters to know that I will only talk about products that I personally use myself and truly love and believe in. I'm excited to announce that this episode of the Glow Collective is brought to you by Bellafill, one of my personal favorite fillers.
As a dermatologist, treating acne scarring is one of the most impactful things that I do for patients to really help them increase their glow, increase their confidence, and help them feel more comfortable in their skin. Bellafill is the only filler FDA approved for the treatment of acne scarring. Now, what I love about Bellafill is that it works immediately, but it's also a long-term biostimulatory filler. So what that means is that it's promoting the growth of new collagen. Now, you guys, this means that you get a beautiful result the day of your treatment that will only improve with time. Now, if you're curious about treating your acne scarring and want to start your journey to smooth, glowing skin, I invite you to make an appointment with me, Dr. V, or check out the link in the show notes to find a Bellafill provider near you. And if you're seeing me, mention this podcast to receive 10% off your first Bellafill treatment. Now back to the show.
Even like today, right? You're like 11, maybe you said 1 or 2, maybe 11 or 12, and I'm like, how about 10?
Yeah, we're like, I know, I was like early-ish, and I was like, all right. And he's like 10. I was like, ooh.
Because I know by 10, I'm already got multiple hours. I'm like probably going to be in my key optimal state for the day, depending on how much I stay aware and reinforce it through the day. Yeah. So.
And I'm like, I'm used to being, I say, ready to engage with the world.
Yeah.
Usually by 11.
Mine's 9. Yeah. So mine's 9. Yeah.
So
that gives me 3 hours. That gives me 3 hours from 6 to 9 to do whatever I want to do. And sometimes it's mindless things, but I mean, this always starts with the
absolutely
things.
Yeah. Okay.
But then I change it because I don't necessarily do 23 minutes of deep breathing during the day, but I will stop and do 10 breaths.
Yeah.
I actually have an alarm that goes off on my phone every 2 hours. You participated in this one. I hiked last weekend. I'm like, everybody's like, oh, it's my alarm. We got to all stop in the moment. And actually, I was going to surpass that. Sometimes when I'm with other people, that's a practice for me, is being, always being fully yourself in the presence of other people. And I was in the presence of all spiritually connected people. And I'm like, oh, it's just my alarm that brings me presence. And maybe it was you were like, well, let's stop and do it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. But when this alarm goes off, it started as an alarm to practice, to try to get myself to have lucid dreams. So lucid dreams, for people who might not know, are dreams where you're asleep. You're dreaming, obviously. But in your dream, you realize you're dreaming, you realize you're asleep, and then you wake up in the dream. That's the goal. And if you can stay awake in the dream, then the thought process is you can learn and develop. My goal would be that while my body is asleep, my mind can learn deeper connections and more things like at a faster rate.
Oh, absolutely.
So far to date, I've not yet had great, monstrous lucid dreams. Very few and far between. Dreaming maybe it's just the way my body's built. I don't experience those things as much, at least not yet. So this practice is that if you have an alarm and it goes off and you look at your hands and you ask yourself, am I awake or am I asleep? We talked about this.
Yeah.
Am I awake or am I asleep?
Is this real?
Yeah. So I would be like, oh, I'm awake. And then I started asking myself, oh shit, am I awake? Am I awake? Is this the dream? Okay. Then I started saying, I'm awake in the body of Greg Kruger, right? This body, it's called Greg Kruger. I'm awake in that body. And so the thought process would be that if you do this frequently, then while you're dreaming, you will find yourself saying, am I awake or am I asleep? And then you'll be like, oh, I'm asleep.
Oh,
boom, lucid dream, let's fly. And in your dream, you can do anything you want to do. That's my goal. I'd love to be able to fly. One of the things, but so it started there. And then through just different practices that were really resonating with me as of recently in the last, let's say 6 months has probably been going on. I would just ask myself, am I present? Am I being present? And one of the big things, I think the driver for me in my development has always been here. It's always been intellectual, NLP and stuff like that. It's something that I can intellectualize and pass in an intellectual way, and people can grasp it. But that strength then has the opportunity for less embodiment, less feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
And so now my alarm is so that I pause, I breathe, I notice what parts of my body are tense. I try to feel the energy around me, and that's when you start to tingle, and you can start to notice the energy and connect with the energy around you. So now every 2 hours from 9:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., my awake or asleep alarm comes on, and it's a calming, like Yaima song comes on, and then I can, pause and bring myself back. So the big thing is the present.
Oh,
am
absolutely.
I stressed out and thinking about all these things? Am I depressed about something in the past, or am I in this present moment and just dealing with what's in front of me? And then so every 2 hours that goes off.
And I think that's such a beautiful practice, because so often we're not aware. Because otherwise the people around us will dictate how we respond, or our patterns will dictate how we respond.
Yeah.
And so, I think one of my questions you already answered is, are you a thinker or a feeler by default?
By default, thinker, feeler by
conscious choice.
By current work is feeling.
Yeah. And I was similar, where I would say I was a thinker. That's where I was, who I was. And yes, I'm a thinker, but now I'm like 100% feeler.
Yeah.
And so it's good because, you start with the feeling, but now I remember what it's like to be a complete thinker. So I can bring that logic into play and, come back to balance that way.
And it's all balanced, because what you think is how you feel. So therefore I take my power of my intellect and I force it into thinking what I want it to feel, so that I force it, I direct it. I'm like, okay, listen, out of the program here, how do I want to feel? Right.
Yeah.
And then I direct it, because then my thoughts can create.
I agree with that.
But I have to slow them down sometimes.
Yes.
If we're full circle back to cannabis, back to CBD products and everything, is that those components, those components help with the body.
Yeah,
and what a lot of people don't realize is the reason CBD and THC and these things interact with your body, right? There are scientists that were looking into why THC has the effect that it has. And in that exploration, they found that the body makes these
we have endocannabinoids.
Similar substances.
Yeah.
So they didn't have them named before. So they named cannabinoids because these are chemical messengers coming from cannabis. That's what those were. Those are cannabinoids. And then in the discovery in our body, they found that we have substances that are very similar to these phytocannabinoids, cannabinoids derived from a plant.
Absolutely.
And so we call them endocannabinoids.
Yeah.
So the endocannabinoid system in the body was named after cannabis because it was discovered in the search for why cannabis affects the body.
I didn't realize that.
So it turns out we have these chemical messengers that are very similar to cannabinoids from a plant and whatever body makes them. And we have receptors in our body that
all
utilize
over the
them.
body. Yeah.
Not only that, but the endocannabinoid system and these components and these receptors are responsible for everything from pre and postnatal development to pain signaling to healing speeds to inflammation to emotional states.
Absolutely.
To all these things. Runner's high.
Oh, absolutely.
Runner's high is the endocannabinoid system. You're getting high because of these chemicals that are being pumped. They're made in your body.
They are. So it's how can we, and so part of my passion is also how can we tap into our innate power that, right? Like how to get there.
Yeah.
You can do it with substances, but learning to cultivate practices to generate them endogenously.
So we generate them endogenously. What I would say is we have to unlearn. It's not new practices. It's unlearning the practices that utilize that system. So if we're talking about, stress, sugar has been known to cause inflammatory responses. So we have all this sugar in our system that's creating inflammation. So then our endocannabinoid system is fighting that inflammation. Now we're using how much of its capacity. The other thing, the number one killer in my mind, is stress, which I'm sure you agree with from being a physician and from physiology to understanding understanding how the chemicals that are released under stress and the fight or flight.
And you're talking more about psychological, emotional life stress versus like physical stress on the body from
well, so I'll come back to that. Let me cap that part with the thought process that if these things create inflammation, stress creates inflammation, then we're taxing and overtaxing. So it's not about calling on our endocannabinoid system to do better. It's about taking away the shit that it's being used for.
Yeah.
Right? But in our case in point in life, many people are overstressed. Their diets are horrible, and therefore their endocannabinoid system isn't staying up to speed, and it can't. So now we take these external plant cannabinoids, these phytocannabinoids, and they supplement. It's not that they're doing all this stuff. It's that they are supplementing the system that exists in our body, and it allows our body to work to its full power because we're supplementing something that's and so
like
that's why, and so then these have massive anti-inflammatory effects. Well, at the core underneath every disease is an inflammatory response. So then when you take things that help reduce inflammation and give your body the ability to reduce that inflammation, then your body can fight and do, and then you see all your numbers for all these disease states get better, and CBD cures it all. No, CBD doesn't cure it all. Your body cures itself. Your body heals itself.
And likewise,
and you're giving its power back by that. And then hopefully you can say, okay, what can I improve my diet? How about what's a better stress mitigation technique so that I'm not taxing my body as much? So if you take away that stuff, then you don't need the external stuff as much. You just have to stop the internal.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's something really important that I wanted to talk about, and that was when we start talking about internal stress versus external stress. Our body has this system called fight or flight, which most people are aware of. And so
fight, flight, or
hide, right? Or
retreat,
or fight, flight, and or depression, heal. Yeah, heal. You have to heal. So when it's all over, you heal. Fight, flight, freeze, hide, and then heal. But so I'm walking. We're out hiking, and a bear comes across our path. It's probably not the time that we're going to sit there and say, everything is synchronistic in life. I wonder why this is happening. What is the deeper meaning? We're not going to reason. No. Our body says, in our brain, I forget what the firing is. I think it's straight to the amygdala, which is the fastest, which is our brain gets to instantly decide before we can reason. Should I fucking run or should I fight? So when we're in that space, then our body says it's time to fight or run. And so all of our energy is taken from our inside. It's put into our extremities so that we can run or we can fight. So that means that all of the no energy is going towards healing of your cancer. No energy is going towards healing of your depression. No energy is going towards healing of any kind. It's all going to surviving in the moment. Okay. So that's what happens. And then it's meant to be a short-lived thing. You fight or you run, and for a short amount of time, not for hours, right? But you fight or you run for a short amount of time, and then you pause and you heal.
Right. Yeah.
So you go into a depressed state, a slowed state. Depression doesn't have to be a bad word. If we're experiencing depression, that probably is a signal that we need to heal because the brain doesn't know the difference between real and make-believe.
It's true.
If you were to close your eyes and think of the person that you dislike the most, your body and your brain will create chemicals that make you feel heavy feelings, right? Yeah. So then if we think about things that create anxiety and stress, the body sends the same signals for the same chemicals to be released that are happening in a fight or flight response. Right. And so the brain has the power to keep the body in a perpetual state of fight or flight, which is taking all its energy into your periphery, and it's taking it away from your healing, and it's wearing you out until you get to the point where you experience depression because you need to just sit still. You need to just pause. You need to heal. Right. Oh, yeah. So then this is a kind of expression maybe I take a little bit from Dr. Joe. So then if your thoughts can create sickness, because they do, because of the continued flood of all these stress hormones, which create inflammation, which creates sickness. And so if your mind and your thoughts can create sickness, well, can't they create health and healing?
Absolutely.
And so then you start to replace those and those thoughts, and you do it through your words and you do it through your behaviors. And another thing I do. One of the most important things I do every day and every night, part of my daily success habits, after I breathe and meditate, and as I'm going into my stretching, I put myself on my knees and I say gratitudes. I say, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for friends. I'm thankful. I try to always include something like I'm thankful for being me. I'm thankful to be in this body. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I have a mentality that desires deeper things in life. Wow. Man, I would hate to be stuck in that other place. So I do that in the morning, and then I do that. So I verbalize it. So it's in my brain. It's generating the energy. And then I do it at night. So a lot of times I'll be in bed and I'll be like, damn it. Didn't do my gratitudes. And I think to myself, well, you can just do them here. Just lay here and do them. And I'm like, no. I make myself consciously make the decision to go to my knees and say, I'm thankful. Now there's nights I might forget because I'm tired, but I would say 98% of my nights I'm on my knees and say gratitudes.
That's great though. I mean,
gratitudes, nighttime prayer, you can call it whatever you want. It's the same thing. Meditation, prayer, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, so wow.
so there, from cannabinoids to gratitudes. But the big thing there is that the brain can create fight or flight all the time, and we stress our bodies. And so the overstressed body needs supplementation for it to work. Enter cannabinoids, cannabis into the system. And, getting to skin. Yeah. The skin is one of the biggest organs we have, and it has cannabinoid receptors in it for healing, for inflammation. When you have an area of trauma, the cannabinoid receptors at the cellular level become more expressed, and your body responds to that. So you can take something that's topical and put it right there, or put transdermal patch, and it is addressing that site-specific applications, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So we have that. Yeah, as within, so without, and all those things. It's in the skin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. And that was part of the reason why, when we reached out to formulate, or you reached out to work on a skincare product, number one ingredient that I wanted to be in there were cannabinoids.
Yeah.
For that reason, to bring it to the skin for all of its anti-inflammatory properties and incorporate other fun ingredients that will also help improve the skin.
Yeah. And the key one being doing your best to be right into plant-based. That's the beauty about cannabis. It's a plant-based extracted therapies. Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing with the skin too, right? Because a lot of people use retinol. I don't know all of it, what all that does. And I know that it can do good things, but we got this that has plant-based retinol alternative.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that was part of the reason, kind of partnering together to create it, was I had no idea about formulating anything. And that's you. I was like, that's your expertise, but I know all things about skin.
Yeah.
And so, part of that is choosing. Yeah. And so came Alive and Vivid Skincare and Bakuchild Glow.
Yeah.
To have a plant-based retinol that has bakuchild, and you don't get any of the side effects from traditional retinols or prescription retinoids. And you can use it across any application on the skin, even traumatized, irritated skin. It can help heal it.
Yeah. I'm really happy to hear that that's what's coming. We didn't know, exactly what would happen
absolutely.
with all of it. And I'm the exact opposite, in that I didn't know anything about skin. Mm-hmm. I was learning about formulation, but my thought process is, okay, I don't know where to start. And so I'll go to a physician who knows. I can go to you and I can say, okay, absolutely. What do you say? No way. That's not going on my skin. Yeah. Then I know that shit doesn't get on the skin. Okay. What is the absolutes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So tell me again, because I don't even remember, what is retinol and what's the difference? What's the dangers of retinol?
Retinol and bakuchild?
Yeah, what's the purpose of retinol versus, because I was making this with you and I understood a little bit. I understood we're trying to get away from chemicals and into plant-based, but I don't understand what it does.
So, retinols are amazing for the skin. They're traditionally used for acne. They help decrease sebum production, so oil. They help kind of modulate and turn over the skin, so you can exfoliate at a faster rate endogenously. And so it's really helpful for wrinkles, glowiness, blackheads, whiteheads. So
wrinkles are about skin turnover?
Part of it is to get over those. As we get older, our skin cells are more senescent. We don't turn over the skin as quick, and so we have basically layers of dead skin cells at the surface. So doing things to help accelerate that process, like peels or exfoliators or retinols, they're really helpful. But the side effect is they can over dry. They make you more irritated potentially. Your skin's you're sun sensitive, and so now having something like bakuchild, and bakuchild is not a retinol. It's actually retinol-like compound where it's actually more related to some other natural components like melatonin, but it just exerts retinol-like effects. So what that means is that it's going to help turn over the skin, but do it really gently. You have no risk of sun sensitivity, so you can put it on your skin and go out and not get a sunburn.
Yeah. Sorry, I just actually started using it after all. We were talking the other day. I'm like, I need to start using that.
I was like, you made it.
I finally got a bottle.
And so that has that, and then with the niacinamide in it to help calm down redness and inflammation.
And that's B3. B3, right?
Yeah.
Vitamin B3 is niacinamide.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and then
words scare people sometimes,
they
right?
They do. But I think a lot of people, especially I think our audience, they're familiar with niacinamide. And so it's now it's not the new kid on the block, but it's coming out as, it's in everything that a lot of things you can get over the counter.
So is the hyaluronic acid then, is that to help removes the dead skin?
So hyaluronic acid, it helps with hydration. So our cells, we all have...
I think of acid and just tearing my skin away, but not the case.
So you have hyaluronic acid in all over your body. You have it in like your joints. You have it, you have it in the skin. So it helps with hydration, attracting water. So that's what gives like a plump look to something. And so that's why like fillers, some certain fillers that get injected into the skin, dermal fillers, some are hyaluronic acid fillers that work by attracting water and volumizing and plumping. So within the topical route, when you apply HA on the skin, it helps with hydration and your barrier of the skin. So if you're dry,
so that helps with wrinkles as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So HA, and it also helps with the absorption of other topicals you put on. So I mean, HA is in almost most skincare products. Yeah. Because it's just,
Well, right. So when I was doing research, I didn't get into the depth of the research. It was more along the balances of ingredients and things like that. So
I was like,
because I know that if I was you, I would have had to become a doctor in order to do that, because I've never met somebody more detail oriented than myself.
I'm not detail oriented.
Well, okay. Intellectually detailed. Like,
okay.
When I say I'm highly intellectual, and then I have conversations with you, we're like, so how are these ingredients extracted? I'm like, it's just, CO2 extraction. And I was like, do you need to know the entire process? Yes, I do. I'm like, okay. You grow the plant, and then this is how you do this, and this is what happens in extraction. Yeah. I remember, I'm like, okay, you don't need to know that. Like, I don't need to know everything that hyaluronic acid does. I just need to make sure it's at the right balances in the product.
Right. So, and the right percentage.
Yeah. So there we are. Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. So it's like the go-to things that it must have is Becker Child, the new retinol, hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, and we put in melatonin.
A little bit of melatonin, yep.
Yeah, that has really nice effects in the skin.
Which I never, prior to this, would have ever thought. Like, I think of melatonin, I think of, okay, when your sleep cycle, your pineal gland creates melatonin and serotonin, and I believe it creates melatonin then is converted to serotonin for daytime. Yeah, and then it's active, and it's really important for your sleep cycle, and it's released, but I never thought melatonin on the skin.
I mean, there's so many, right? Like you're saying, any compound can exert multiple effects all over. Yeah. And so melatonin is one of these things that has effects on skin, like cellular rejuvenation, especially, within the skin and topically. Yeah. So don't know the exact, we don't have all the exact mechanisms of actions, but I mean, helps with skin.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. We never know all the mechanisms of action. You got metformin for diabetes that they haven't known the mechanism of action. They're still guessing at it like 30 years after it became generic. It's like, it's been used for decades, and they, but they know it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right. And then the last part was with the cannabinoids having CBD and then CBG. So just explain briefly for our listeners kind of the difference, because they probably just know cannabinoids. Yeah.
So we had, like I said earlier, CBD and THC are just the movie stars. I mean, because people might be seeing suddenly they see THC Delta 8 that's called. But what people don't know, first of all, is THC is is a generalized term. When we think about marijuana, and marijuana is just cannabis sativa with high levels of THC. If you just eat it, it's not going to get you high, right? THC is an acid form in the plant, but then when it's heated, it becomes THC Delta 9, and that's the version of THC that gets you high, right? But what people are starting to see now is there's THC Delta 8, there's 6 and 7, there's 10, and there's THCV. THCV, we're doing a new. I'm not going to get into that now, but we just did a small project, like 25 bottles for a test run for weight loss, appetite cessation, energy.
Interesting.
So it might be novel diabetes cannabinoid later.
Wow, very cool.
But all of them come from CBG. CBG is considered the mother cannabinoid. So it's the first cannabinoid in acid form, CBGA, that is created in cannabis. And then through enzyme signaling of the plant, CBG becomes CBD, it becomes THC, it becomes all these different components. And sometimes THC goes through its own cycle of precursors and then delta-9 and then postcursors. Because CBN is one that people associate with sleep. And CBN is, I believe, the as a result of the oxidation of THC.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. If that's incorrect, then but I'm pretty sure that's where CBN is created. So CBG is just the mother cannabinoid, and they're finding that it has so many therapeutic effects that are similar to CBD. For instance, internally, because I've never done we have a topical, but not something that is what I put in my face. But internally, we know we have a cannabinoid called anandamide that is made in our brain.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the bliss molecule.
Yeah. Because ananda is Sanskrit for bliss. Right. And so anandamide, when it's released, and it's released on demand, and I don't know the duration, the half-life of it, but it creates a relaxed feeling. Right. So therefore, CBD, there's an enzyme that breaks down anandamide. CBD blocks that enzyme, which allows our body to, like I said, these supplement our system to allow our system to work better. So CBD is blocking the enzyme that breaks down anandamide. And so therefore you have a more relaxed feeling. So why does this work for people who have anxiety or having a hard time sleeping because they can't get their mind to chill out?
Yeah. Like
right?
the tone
and
is
so
too
they
high,
get, and so maybe the extra anandamide is helping. CBG addresses it in a different way. CBG acts to signal more anandamide production. So together, here we go back to that entourage effect and why all of the components matter is that one is doing something this way, one is doing something this way, and together we're getting a greater effect.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about CBG. CBG was I would say was the third popular. CBD and THC, all the movie stars, all the hype. Then comes CBG. Then you see CBN is big for sleep. I'm formulating a sleep product for some people now. Yeah, CBC, I'm not real familiar with, but that's been, I'm starting to see more of that come around, THCV and stuff.
Well, it'll be interesting.
They're super expensive still, some of them.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, so winding down, I have a last couple of feet. I call them my 5-minute glow ups.
5-minute glow up.
So
blow this shit up.
So you have 5 minutes to basically. I'm going to list out a couple things.
Okay.
Just share what you would do. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You have 5 minutes, and you need to eat a snack or eat something. What do you eat?
Oh gosh. Here. Welcome into Greg's areas of opportunity. So diet, I put a lot of effort into other things. Maybe the energy isn't so good at diet. Optimally, I'll eat some fruit. If I have 5 minutes, I'll eat something, probably banana or some fruit. Yeah.
All right. Favorite fruit?
Whatever I have. So sometimes it's pears, sometimes it's bananas. I usually have bananas.
Okay, that's fair.
Sometimes I grab chips or crackers.
All right, okay.
Area of opportunity.
Fair enough.
And because, vulnerability is everything. We have to be able to say where we are, right? I often say if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, give me directions to your house." Yeah. Right? Like the first thing I'm going to say is, "Where are you, man?"
Yeah, exactly.
Are you in the same state? Are you in the same city? Because where you are depends on the directions I give.
Exactly.
So vulnerability is the ability to state where you are. So you can say, "Well, I've not yet really dove into the best optimal nutrition." That's a goal for me, to become self-sufficient in growing my own food. That's like I have not yet had the energy based on everything else I'm doing to get there. So next question, please.
All right.
Skip.
All right. You have 5 minutes and you need to do some type of movement or exercise.
I have 5 minutes. I need to do some type of movement. I'm probably slapping my body, jumping up and down, shaking my hands.
Slap your body. All right.
Slapping my body and breathing is probably what I'm doing. maybe some push-ups.
Okay.
Yep, that's probably
Okay.
it.
Awesome. Okay. So 5 minutes. So maybe this will be answered easily too. 5 minutes and you have to relax. What do you do?
Oh,
You need to get into a deep
breathe.
relaxation.
Yeah, I cut off as much external noise as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
External noise can be visual as well. So closing my eyes, if I have my mindfold, I have a mindfold mask that I can wear, and it's got little holes in the phone inside, so that you can have your eyes open and it's still pitch black. And I find those so valuable that I have one at the office, and I have one because I live in Currently, my situation has been for way too long that because the office is an hour and 40 minutes away, that I'm there Monday through Thursday, and I'm home Friday through Monday morning. So some variations sometimes, but so I have a mindfold in both places, so that my morning exercises and breathing and meditations always have that on. So if I need 5 minutes and I've got to get myself, if I have that available, I'll put that on. If not, I'll close my eyes, shut down as much data and vibration that is entering the brain, so the brain can slow down a little bit. Yeah, and breathe and try to focus on things that I appreciate and I'm grateful for. Yeah, and then try to generate that energy in my body.
Okay, perfect. All right. And then 5 minutes, and well, you kind of shared it already. 5 minutes right before you go to bed. What do you do?
Gratitudes.
Okay,
yep.
Perfect. So gratitudes.
I've had. So it's interesting though. Vulnerability is that I got on this kick of my control of my social media and my phone and different things. And I, for a while, I had this habit going of 10 to 10:15, my phone is off. And as of recent, I've noticed that I'm pushing that limit while I'm laying in bed, which is a suboptimal habit, because the light from that stimulates the brain to think it's supposed to be on. Now I've tricked myself into saying that's okay, because then I put the mindfold on, and I know that if one of the fastest ways like I've found to fall asleep is if I put that on and if I have my eyes open staring into pitch black, then pretty soon you don't realize if your eyes are open or closed, and they naturally close. So I find that to be a really fast way to fall asleep too.
Okay, perfect. All right. So final 2 questions. So you get to leave any gift for any person in the world. Like, what gift do you leave them?
No, I would say I leave them. Is it only like it would be information? So if I could leave them anything, I would write everything that I know down and say there. Take. This is everything that I've learned in my experience that I find valuable, because everything that I know and do and that I share all. I might have created different words and ways to explain it, but it all comes from somebody else that's passed it on. Yeah. So it's just, but if I could only share one message, it would be the answer is always inside.
I like that.
It's always
inside. The answer is always inside. And then final question. So what does unleash your glow mean to you?
The most vibrant version of yourself that you know how. And that really just means to be the truth of you. Right? We all have different strengths and areas of opportunity, but it's the acceptance of who we are. This is one reason why I'm thankful for being me. I'm thankful for everything that I have in my strengths and my areas of opportunity. I don't like the word weakness either. Area of opportunity, someplace I have not yet focused. But to be that fully, it took me a long time to start making. It was only after a small group coaching retreat in Bali, which was just amazing, where I started being more comfortable posting all the things that I post online in my Facebook and my Instagram and those expressions, because I was fearful of judgment. Oh yeah. Like what would people think of me? What do people from the Marine Corps think? Because when I was in the Marine Corps, I was a totally different mentality and I was pretty hardcore, like asshole type. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like really driven and stern. Wasn't talking about meditation back then. And so what would these guys think? Like Kruger's meditating and deep now. Like who the fuck is this guy? Right. Yeah. Right. So I had those thoughts and those fears of how people would judge me, and then I started doing it, and then I started finding how powerful I felt, and the resonance and the comments and the connections that come back and the friendships that are developed as a result of expressing who I am. So if I'm glowing up, then I'm definitely being the best version of me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why we're all here.
Indeed. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So where can our glow getters find you if they want to follow along in your journey.
So honestly, when it comes to like the dream nutrition stuff, I have a little bit of a separation in my social media.
Okay. So if they want to learn about Dream and go...
dreamnutrition.com.
Okay, perfect.
Dreamnutrition.com.
And we'll have that linked up.
Yeah.
Perfect. That'll be linked in the show notes.
If they have any specific, dare I put my email out there, but it's just Greg at dreamnutrition.com, and it's DREEM, Dream Nutrition. But on my Facebook, just Greg Kruger, and I've got a background that says "Be the Exception," and that's how you'd find me. Because I don't know if you might be a little bit different with your name. It's a little more unique, I would think. But if you search Gregory Kruger, there's a lot of Greg Krugers. It's kind of really it's humbling and weird and interesting, but Be the Exception is on my Facebook, and I'm
we'll link
on Instagram. I'm a meditation junkie.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we'll link those in the show notes. So if people want to find you, they have questions,
and they can find our products at your establishment and online. But your establishment, I would always push for that, and for you carry some of our other products as well.
Yeah, so we have a couple of their 2 or 3 of their CBD containing products. So love them. So
they can get those from you too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, anywhere, but I'd rather push the business to you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, it's a wrap.
All right.
All right.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode of the Glow Collective, I humbly invite you to take a conscious moment to keep this vision glowing. I would love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave us an honest review. And if this podcast resonates with you, share it with 3 or 4 of your family friends, tag me on Instagram at DRVSKIN, and let me know which words and messages really hit home for you. Let's get the message growing. And why? Because I really want you to glow. Our time is now, and this podcast is only made possible because of you, because I am called to give back to you and share these ideas, thoughts, and messages with all of you, my intrigued glow-getting listeners. We are high vibrational beings here to grow and feel. We are meant to create and perceive deeper experiences of connection and to ultimately enhance the level of love and joy in our relationships of our life. So this is a wrap to today's episode. I'm your host, Dr. V. Stay tuned for the upcoming episode of the Glow Collective, and let's live, love, and glow.